Welcome to the Tradier Rundown. I am Jim Uriel. That's Bob Iacchino. Together, the two of us, well, more me than him, are the hosts of the Tradier's The Trader's Edge, which airs live at 3 p.m. Central Time Wednesdays, and then is repeated on YouTube and all the other normal platforms. How are you today, Bobby?
Good. How you doing, bud?
Good. The topic today is pretty wild volatility in the market. Started back on that fateful Monday. The sky is falling. The Fed needs to cut 150 basis points now, or else all hell is going to break loose, which was the most idiotic morning of all time. That was 2 Mondays ago, right? Like almost 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks from next week.
August 5th, right?
Okay. So volatility, we snapped back. We had 8 straight positive candle days in the S&Ps, which is something we haven't done since 2010, is what my research kind of said. Volatility. Is this a welcome change? I know it's welcome for traders, but what about for the average investors?
So the average investor, what I want to point out one key thing to them. I'm going to go with the S&P, but it also applies to the NASDAQ. When they're above their 200-day moving average and we get a VIX near 40, the returns to the upside are dramatically better over the short to medium term from that. Below it's 200, it's a different story. VIX gets above 40 or in that 40 range, there's some negative returns going forward. So when you get these spikes, you need to be aware of the general trend. And maybe the 200-day isn't how you look at it, but you need to be aware of the general trend. And generally that will tell you whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. Because you and I both, I mean, I don't think I told you, but I sold puts when that happened. When we got that, a friend of mine said to me, what if it spikes up to 80? And I looked back and I saw only 2 times since 1950 that the VIX has reached 80.
Sell more puts, baby.
Yeah. So I just sold more puts when he pointed that out.
Yeah.
But, it's a good time to look at some short-term stuff. Volatility itself isn't going anywhere, but you just have to put it into context when you see it.
So if you're not, you and I trade very, very actively. By the way, you noticed that the S&P went down and literally pecked the 200-day moving average and then reversed on its low. Well, that was the futures at about down 10%. If you are not as active as we are, but you're someone who likes to take control of their financial future, do you make moves when you see VIX spikes to 40, or do you just hold tight? What do you think they should do?
I mean, not being a financial planner, the only thing I've ever told people in my family circle to do was that if the trend changes, you can adjust. But if the trend stays the same, just don't look at it. And I've actually told family members of mine, look at the 200-week. And until we get below a 200-week moving average, you might as well just leave it alone if it's long term.
Yeah. That is an excellent takeaway, by the way. Okay. Well, last question is that there is tremendously high concentration in the Magnificent Seven still, even after they got washed out disproportionately to everything else. Do you think this poses a risk for future volatility?
I think it increases the probability of future volatility, but risk isn't the word I would use, because you're talking about 7 stocks and it'll probably dwindle to 4 and then 3 new ones will take their place. When you talk about the Magnificent Seven, there's a couple of stocks that were in it that are in it now that weren't in it 3 years ago. And they were still talking about the Magnificent Seven. Technology is where you want to be if you're under 70, in my view, because it is what's going to drive the economy in the future. So if you believe in the U.S. economy, you believe in technology.
Okay. I said that was the last question, but I do have one more. We have a bunch of things coming up. I don't know if you heard about the fact that there's some sort of election. I'm not sure for what office it's for in November. Well, if you have to list the potential potholes, is the election number 1, or is war in the Middle East? What do you think of the list is?
I believe it or not, I think it's the results of the collective elections. So in other words, I mean, there's no secret that the Kamala Harris, a potential Kamala Harris organization, wants to move corporate taxes from 21 to 28%.
Said it right.
So, yeah. So if you get Congress and the White House to go left, you're probably going to get that. That's a big hit.
It's a big hit. Okay. This has been Tradier's Rundown. I am Jim Uriel. That's Bob Iacchino. Please join us for Tradier's The Trader's Edge, which airs live. And by the way, 2 weeks ago, we had a live audience that was as big as some of CNN's daytime programming audiences. Seriously, a live audience that watched it. And that's not even where podcasts live. That was the live audience. So please join us. Everybody else seems to be doing it. I'm Jim Uriel. That's Bob Iacchino.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.